So, the Golden State Killer and Lori Vallow, true crime. So, yesterday, the Golden State Killer, the man who terrorized California, the one that haunted me in my dreams, finally pled guilty to his despicable crimes. I think he pled guilty to 13 murders. I have to be honest. I cried because I was getting very impatient with that case. So subscribe and hit the bell to get notification each time I upload something new. So I felt, very emotional for all the victims. And I'm going to give you my little true crime story of how I came to know about the Golden State Killer. So I'm currently watching the HBO special, I'll Be Gone in the Dark. It's about the author of the best-selling true crime book of the same name and about the Golden State Killer and his crimes. I have to be honest, the first episode wasn't all that great and didn't really tell me anything that I don't already know. But I love the fact that they drove to some of the neighborhoods where the crimes occurred. I even myself looked at some of the crime scenes on Google Maps, the crime locations. Since childhood, I've always been fascinated with America and especially California. I've got a family in America, but most of them don't live in California. And I've been to America many, many times, but it's been a long time and I'm really missing America. And I really want to go to California and I want to go to Colorado. But anyway, that's for another time. But before I get to that, as you all probably already know, Lori was hit with more charges and Chad's property was searched once again. But, murder charges is really what I am looking for. So I don't see that as a major development in the case. But things are really looking bad for Lori Vallow. She's in the ditch, and climbing her way out of it is currently impossible. And she doesn't have, nothing is impossible for her, but probably impossible. And she doesn't have access to proper beauty care. So for that alone, she will be suffering a great deal. She's aging very rapidly. I mean, she looked great before she went to prison, but her terrible living conditions, the fact that she's separated from Chad, who she was so desperate to be with, she'll be eating substandard, bland, boring food and having to share a bathroom with lots of other people. She's a long way away from sunsets and palm trees and cocktails, and we can all be thankful for that. And, she can't hide who she really is for much longer. She's not going to be looking so pretty, beauty products, nail salons, parlors. She doesn't have access to the best of those things. So at the end of the day, was it really all worth it? And as we move closer to the date for the so-called end of times, she's going to have a massive, wake-up call. None of this had to happen. She's in the ditch because she was greedy, had no morals and no empathy. She didn't care about anything but herself and being with Chad. So her personality disorder has finally caught up with her. No more hiding behind a pretty face. The looks are going to fade. And how she's treated her son is absolutely disgraceful. This is a woman who has an empty soul. So back to the Golden State Killer. I thought that I was going to be able to do this episode all in one, but I'm not going to try and cram in everything in one episode. And the Golden State Killer, that case itself requires so much research, so much detail. But I'm going to tell you my little story. And this is the first part. There will probably be a second part. So picture this. It's a late summer evening. I'm home one weekend and I'm watching the crime channel as per usual. So I'm watching this crime show, this documentary about this serial killer called the East Area Rapist. Most of his crimes took place before I was even born, roughly between 1974 and 1986 in sunny surfing USA, California. This essentially was a cold case. And as I'm watching it, I'm sitting in bed and I'm frozen with fear as I listen to chilling details of this man breaking into homes and raping and murdering people, women, couples, young women who are alone. And if the murders weren't bad enough, he would, for his own gratification, psychologically torture his victims. So he would put plates on their back and he'd say, if this plate falls to the ground, you're dead. He would hang around the house. He would even cook in their kitchens. He would eat from the fridge. He would taunt his victims terribly. So this killer was particularly savage. He started burglarizing homes in a place called Visalia, and then his crimes escalated and they were very brutal and very prolonged. A phone call that he made to one of his victims where he threatened to kill her just gave me the chills. And I remember after watching this documentary years ago, before he was called the Golden State Killer, I was so scared and frustrated as well, because there were so many opportunities for the police to catch this guy. And I thought to myself, if he's alive, he's probably really old, or he could even be dead. So, we fast forward quite a few years later, this cold case became hot again. There was a renewed determination to find him. And in the latest documentaries, I remember thinking, how in the world are they going to find this guy? I became so enraged because I thought this man was going to get away with it. He was going to die, get away with it. And I thought to myself, there's no way that there's going to be any justice if he gets away with it. And I was also very afraid that he was going to be too old. So even if he was charged and arrested and put in prison, that he really wouldn't have long left. Justice has come too late. So they had no real profile, no idea where this guy lived or what he did. They had nothing before they caught him, literally nothing. And as I trekked through the streets of the houses that he committed his crimes on Google Maps, I love going on Google Maps and looking at locations. I just love it because you kind of just, I feel like I can go anywhere in the world. And I even sometimes visit the old house that I used to live in. And I visit, New York, Chicago, all kinds of places on Google Maps. It's so fantastic for that. But anyway, as I trek through the streets of the houses that he committed his crimes on Google Maps, I'm literally going through the streets where he hunted and preyed. And I noticed that many of the homes were single-story houses that had easy access. So he looked for easy prey, easy escape routes, houses that had very easy access. I looked at one of the crime scenes in Irvine, one of the nicer houses and areas that he stalked. He also killed a woman in Santa Barbara, a beautiful, affluent beach community. He preyed up and down California, north and south, and even in the middle. So anyway, there's going to be a part 2 to this. I'm not going to be able to do this episode in one. So stay tuned for part 2, and I'll try and upload part 2 as soon as I possibly can. It's not going to happen today, but hopefully because there's so much information with this case that I just can't do it in one episode. So until then, see you later.